It's come up a lot, even in the previous, panels, conversations. And looking back, pushing the arm of the clock back, to those probably who, when this whole project began, were pessimistic, or probably thinking maybe this is just another of those big ambitious projects that Rwanda is working on. Looking at what it has come up to be today, what are the untold stories? What are those conversations that you feel we need to be hearing that we are yet to hear about this big project in terms of its potential solution to the conversation we're having right now?
Thank you, Eugene. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
I've often been asked the question, why is Rwanda positioning itself as an international financial center? And Eugene, I want to say that's the wrong question to ask. The right question should have been, what has taken Rwanda long to position itself as an international financial center? As Liz presented, when we highlight that global map and you look at the global context, there is the appreciation that financial centers play a very critical role in facilitating those with opportunities and those who are looking for capital. So when we look to Africa, as Liz highlighted, there are quite a few. But let's recall that Africa is 55 countries with immense opportunities. So Rwanda actually delayed. It's not why Rwanda is positioning, is why Rwanda took so long, is what we are now addressing. But the intervention itself was long overdue. Now, from the perspective of Rwanda, we are not setting out to reinvent the wheel. Global investors, when I look around the audience today, are familiar with international financial centers. So financial centers have been there for quite a long time. So what we are setting out to do is to learn from others, borrow best practice, respond to what we see as emerging investor needs. So what happened in the background, among the first things that we did, and I'm glad to see BAI around, is to go to investors and say, when you are looking to invest in Africa, when you're looking to invest in Rwanda, what are the concerns? How can we work to address them? And as rightly put, BAI is one of the big investors in Africa. So we signed a partnership with BAI and said, look, we want to have access to your legal team, because from what we are hearing as concerns from investors who are looking to Rwanda and Africa, they're looking for mainly three things. One, they're looking for predictability, a jurisdiction that is able to tell them when you do this, as it was yesterday, as it will be today, and as it will be tomorrow. Number two, they're looking for safety of the investment that they are doing. And number three, they are looking for compliance. So having heard that, we said, look, what we have already in Rwanda is an established and growing financial sector. How can we now modernize it to respond to those concerns? So as Liz highlighted, we've now successfully completed it. We've amended our legal framework to ensure that it responds to those three things. It's able to show predictability, it's able to show safety, and it's able to show compliance. Two was to say, okay, investors are always able to facilitate cross-border trade and investments. That's what led to the birthing of the Africa Continental Free Trade Area. And to say, how do we make this a reality? Both its investment protection agreements and double tax treaty network, again to respond to the three concerns that we see as the key for investors who look to run and who look to Africa in general.
Perfect, detailed. Thank you for that. Patience, I want to hear from you in terms of, feel free to appreciate. The train has left, much as we are saying it took long to leave the port, but it has left. And I want us to understand, Patience, from where you sit, you represent a financial institution that has regional regional presence there's some presence of regionalism in its DNA. And we are looking at aligning this financial sector here in Rwanda with regional and global economies. I would like you to, as you talk to us about what you're doing at BPR in terms of all this, I want us to understand the significance of ensuring that that aspect of integration is actually at the core. By the way, Patience is one of the many female CEOs of financial institutions in Rwanda. Let's appreciate her. Yeah, so go ahead.
Thank you very much, Eugene. Good afternoon, everybody.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for the opportunity to speak on this panel, and I'm really, really looking forward to the engagement that we'll have after the panel discussions, because usually that's the fun part. While we're here, we don't know whether we are responding to what you really want to hear, but I'm hoping that we'll have an even more engaging session after the panel discussion. So BPR is a bank that is majority owned by KCB, the KCB Group. KCB Group is a bank that has a really rich history, having been formed in Kenya in 1986. So oldest banks, if not the oldest that we have in the region. And so, it expanded in the Kenyan market, very successful. And then in the late 1990s, they start to think about the expansion strategy, as all growing businesses would think. And so they started to expand within the region, obviously starting with the most lucrative markets in their view. They went into Tanzania, and then into South Sudan, and then Uganda, and then finally to Rwanda in 2008. So KCB Group was formed in Rwanda as a greenfield in 2008. And the bank from the very beginning experienced tremendous growth. In a period of 10 years, the total assets had grown to over 170 billion Rwanda francs. And that was organic growth, no acquisition whatsoever. And that really speaks to the growth of this country, because during those 10 years, the economy was growing at a rate of about 8% annually. And we saw the bank growing even faster than the economic growth of the country. And so as a group, you start to think about this market where you're operating, and you want to do more. And so around 2018, after the 10 years of organic expansion, they thought about what more they could do in Rwanda. And so the idea of acquisition was planted within the minds of the bank. And I'm really proud to say that KCB Group in Rwanda is where we had the first merger of two banks, and I'm coming to that. So 2018, the idea is planted of merging with a potential bank, and in the minds of KCB was BPR. And BPR was originally called Banque Populaire du Rwanda, People's Bank, right? Very simply put, Popular Bank of Rwanda. Still is the most popular, by the way, yes. I might add. So Banque Populaire was a bank that had been formed as a cooperative bank, over 500,000 shareholders across the country who thought, I think there were two commercial banks at the time, but really not serving the grassroots. So people in communities would get together and form a branch within their neighborhood. So there were so many Banque Populaires around the country, over 400 at the time. And then the government of Rwanda decided to merge those cooperative banks into a commercial bank, which in 2007 became BPR Bank. So when KCB was thinking about the expansion strategy in Rwanda, there was this wonderful idea, which was BPR Bank, and the two banks started the process of negotiating a merger. The process actually started in July 2021, although the idea had been planted around 2018. And within a record 9 months, the merger between KCB Rwanda and BPR Bank had been completed. And I say it's a record because I believe, I stand to be corrected, but I believe that was so far the biggest merger that we had on the Rwandan, in Rwanda, in the Rwandan economy. It was a successful merger, really smooth, and I credit that really to the government of Rwanda. And when we talk about having a favorable business environment, an enabling environment, it's no joke. Working with the Central Bank of Rwanda, working with the RDB, working with the Ministry of Finance, the bank got the most smooth facilitation that you could imagine for that merger. And then it was completed to March 2022. So right now we are operating as a merged entity whose pillar is really built around how to support the growth of Rwanda. So KCB, back to the thought around regional integration within the region. We believe that we will continue to work with the government, with the regional economic blocs, and working with the private sector. So there is so much that I can unlock there in terms of how we see our growth coming in. But to your point, regional integration is central to.
Morning during the plenary session, it was said that for people to actually do actual business, sometimes it takes them to leave their offices, leave their desks, and get on the ground. And I want to understand from where you sit at the British International Investment. I want to hear, what is it that you're hearing on the ground, telling you about the needs of those who want to invest within the financial and professional services on the continent, and specifically also here in Rwanda? What are they saying, without being diplomatic?
So I think a lot of it has been covered already, and is part of the reason why Rwanda is such an attractive opportunity. A lot has been said about the rule of law.
Mike, sound. Yeah.
Hello, is this just a bit closer? Great, okay. So I was saying, I think a lot of it has been covered already, in the sense that, what makes Rwanda an attractive destination for investors, and I guess for any market in Africa. The rule of law, reliable frameworks, and
Sorry, can you hear him? Could you please pump up the volume, sound team? You can use mine.
Just show you someone. Right, third time lucky. There we go. That looks good. I think a lot has been covered earlier today in the sense that what we look for and what most investors look for when investing in emerging economies is, the prevalence of the rule of law and reliable and predictable systematic frameworks for us to invest in. You're right, and the fun part of the job is to get up and off the desk and come and meet and find the opportunities that we want to invest in, and also to meet the banks and the organisations that are lending in our countries and reaching the underserved markets that we're trying to tap into. So as well as the structural frameworks of the company that we try that we want to work within, it's about finding the right partners there. We know KCB well from the region. And other banking groups in the region, as well as local banks here. In Rwanda, there is certainly, a drive, and I think we've talked about it earlier. There's a young and willing, very educated workforce. There's fantastic connectivity. And there's a drive, really, as it was said earlier, over the last 10 years, the change has been remarkable. And I think that will continue in the next 10 years, which gives us a lot of opportunity.
Thank you very much. Charlotte, I want to come back to you, especially on one other thing. I hear what Taka has mentioned, the rule of law, structure in fixing that challenge. Is there any specific intentional programs, projects in solving that challenge of
this?
Yeah.
And there's also sort of sector interventions that we put in place. I'll start with the government side. Government sort of nurture talent that will be fed into the global business services sector. On our end, as a sector body, we're working very closely with upskilling partners. Like by the time graduates are coming out of university, they're ready for the job market, particularly for this sector.
Right.
Yeah.
Nick, what would you want from the people in the room in terms of traveled all the way and they came with their money somewhere and said, I want to understand why I should invest in Rwanda's financial and professional services. And Nick is the one to tell them where to put their money. What is it that should be telling them? Where should they put their money?
Finance in general is quite one of the sectors that requires specialized skill. And this skill ranges from tax, legal, audit, IT, you name it. From a policy perspective, the first approach has been practices to set up what is now called the Financial Sector Skills Council that has industry actors, has been to say, let's seek strategic partnerships where there is mutuality. And the approach here again has been to say, let's work with partner, and that is giving us opportunity to have benchmarking trips, learning opportunities for regular. And then 3 is now to work on establishing training platforms. Again, thanks to the government of Luxembourg, we now have goals to have a campus in Kigali, and we continue to do that.
Yeah.
So there are skills that are already present, but also working to the go-to institution to engage with. And lastly, Eugene, I always say, and this is a proverb I heard from one of my elders, Dr. Kaberuka, we are now looking for those with the birds to lay the eggs. So we are ready. We have a financial center that is developed and is that could invest through Rwanda while looking at the opportunities across the region.
Yeah, interesting. Good one. Patience, I want to understand also to work with your institution today. What opportunities are there for international institutions other than just looking at Rwanda and the region in terms of... Yeah.
Okay. Thanks, Eugene. I feel like I'm going to wear an RDB hat. But no, I will keep it to the financial sector.
Yeah.
I think 2 things. Loud. I said I felt, when Eugene asked the question, I felt like I was going to wear my RDB hat. I've never worked for the RDB, but organizations, financial organizations, for example, the UKF. As a bank, we have a function of mobilizing finances to invest in potential businesses. And there are a number of areas where we've highlighted as a key priority for us going forward. Number 1 is agriculture. Agriculture is a sector that employs over 80% of Rwanda's population. There has been a lot of focus on, food security. However, there's a plan, and there are initiatives that have been put in place to move the country from, focusing on food security and more into export-oriented agriculture. So we want to find our place there and finance the Number 2 is financing to women-owned businesses or excluded companies. Women-owned business, they are rejected. And so we're just rethinking our approach in supporting women-owned businesses. And so this is going to be a key priority for the bank to focus on businesses that are technology would be the 4th. There's a lot of talk on green financing, but as a bank, we realize that sometimes we can't really put a finger on what exactly is green financing. So we are developing products that are going to focus on greening the sectors of focus. For example, mining, agriculture, manufacturing. Those are some of the sectors that we want to support in greening. So those 3 or 4 areas are going to be really important for us. And so for funding partners who are in the room and are looking for a local financial institution to partner with, we are an institution or a bank of choice. And number 2 would be for those that are looking to invest in actual production in any of those sectors that we've mentioned: agriculture, mining, manufacturing, tourism, and all that. We are a bank that is ready to partner with such institutions, both in terms of providing products and services to serve your needs, but also to provide financing to scale your businesses. So I'm happy to talk. I have a number of cards here, and I also have some colleagues in the room. Albert, I hope you're here. No, he's not. I had a number of colleagues in the room. They've probably gone to other, sessions to get customers, but we're here to serve the needs of the investors. So please feel free to talk to us and check us out also on our social media platforms to get more information about BPR.
Yeah, very strong KPIs you've put there. Freddie, one very important question I want us to demystify. When we read on publications, we are hearing of the aspect of FDI numbers dwindling because of those particular shocks. And we are seated in this room talking about investments in that sense. Talk to us a bit about whether the region should be worried in terms of when we are seeking partnerships, FDIs. Tell us, is it a time to worry? Is it a time to say we should look at things differently? What would you be able to say, especially within the financial and professional services, including the aspect of funding, especially in projects that need funding from external support?
Sure. Right, I think this one is working now?
Yeah.
Great, okay. So yes, it is true there has been, an outflow. I think it's been sort of commonly reported there's been an outflow of capital from the continent over the last years, as we've seen sort of mainly global macro stresses, especially in the financial sector, not specifically to East Africa, but much wider and more broadly. Okay, let's try this. I think what I'd say from an investment perspective is, BII is a development finance institution, so we invest counter-cyclically. That means we have risk appetite where perhaps the private market doesn't in some cases. If you look at our portfolio on the financial services side, about almost 50% of our AUM, so about $5 billion is invested in financial services through our financial services group. And we do this through a variety of investments. So that can be taking equity positions, long-term debt, short-term debt, and providing guarantees. And all of these instruments, we use and deploy most effectively in times of market stress. And that's not specifically to East Africa, but you can see it on the continent and you can see it more globally. So, I think we have a role to play in these kind of times, and not just with our capital. We also provide training and technical support, especially on environmental and social topics. It's not just financial and commercial stresses we're seeing in the world. Climate is a big issue for everyone, and so is advancing, lending to women and marginal groups as well. So we can provide a lot of help in those areas, particularly in product development, and also shared learnings from our portfolio. We have a wide portfolio, so we can share with others what we've seen elsewhere within that portfolio. And finally, in the areas of climate and gender, we give a lot of guidance. We're launching a gender with FSD Africa, who I think may be in the room in Nairobi next month. So I think going back to your original question about stresses and FDI outflows.
Thank you. So I want to open the floor. If you came with a loaded question for any of the panelists, this is your chance. Just raise your hand up, then we'll have a mic to you, and then you can specify who you want the question to go to. Yeah, we have a hand here. And I'll prioritize the lady before I go to the gentleman. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, let's go.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Mic check.
Yeah, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Carol Zigire. I work at Southbridge. And today I think we talked a lot about the complexity of doing business in Africa, of raising capital. We talked about closing the gap and also the opportunities of different investments in Rwanda, in Africa, especially in Rwanda. So I believe that today, from this forum, we are capable of raising more than 100 million British pounds or millions of dollars too. And I want to highlight the role and the importance of having a financial advisor. Today we are talking about financial and professional services in Rwanda. And I want to tell UK investors that locally here in Rwanda, there's firms that provide those services. We'll help you in strategic consulting. We'll help you in mergers and acquisition. I think Madame Patience talked about it. All these kind of areas where you believe that you need more, you want to talk to an advisor or you have this big transaction, instead of considering an financial advisory firm in the UK, you should also probably consider one in Rwanda. That was my first point. And the second part is also to tell Rwandans, like companies, firms that are based in Rwanda, that we also help you to fundraise. We can easily talk to BII about your firm, the amount of money you're trying to raise, and we act like middlemen. So do not be afraid to think that it will be hard to reach out to BII. So you can think of a firm like our company, Southbridge. We understand the market, we understand the region. We have different offices, let it be in Rwanda, in West Africa, in Paris, in London. All these kind of things, I think from this forum, it should just enlighten us with the idea that it's possible to actually fundraise. And in Rwanda, there are services, financial services providers that can help you with all these kind of things. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm fundraising. I know now who to talk to. Thank you. Next, just keep your hand up so that they can know where you are. You can give, yeah.
Hi.
Hi.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Sorry, my name is Genevieve Ahinfo. I represent Africa Specialty Risks. We are insurers and reinsurers. And the department I work for specifically is trade credit and political risk. Now, it has been fascinating, the whole conference, to hear about the financial sectors, the needs for funding, investors, FDI, but no one has mentioned insurance, right? Now, normally when people mention insurance, they think property, motor, that kind of thing. But people don't talk about investor insurance. They don't talk about the insurance that makes financial services happening. So we've had representatives from BII, from UKEF, we've had banks, you name it. But behind all of this is credit and political risk insurance. So my question is, and please, it's aimed at anybody who can answer, what is the Rwandan government doing to encourage capacity building in the insurance sector to ensure that investors coming in have the protection? I do know, having been a former employee of ATI, or TD as they're now known, that the Rwandan government is a shareholder and a member. But we don't see enough of encouragement of the local insurance companies, of the brokers, of the reinsurers in Rwanda to try and build the capacity to support not just investment within Rwanda, but cross-border as well. Yeah. So any commentary on insurance sector? Thank you.
Nick, are you able to take that? Go ahead. Yeah. Let's take so that we don't forget. Proceed. You can go ahead.
Thank you. It's a very pertinent question, and thank you for asking it. I couldn't agree with you more that insurance plays and will continue to play a very critical role in any financial sector's development. From the government of Rwanda, two interventions that are seen as critical. One is from policy alignment. We've taken time to look at the insurance law as was, and there is quite a lot of work that has gone on after consulting the industry to see that we have a pro-business insurance law. It's now in the process of being enacted. It's been in Parliament, and we hope that before the end of this year, this law would have been enacted. Second is what I mentioned. When now it comes to the issue of skill, we are aware that skill that is required by industry actors is lacking. What we had seen was different associations of actors within the financial sector taking on an approach that only is addressing their needs. And we felt from, again, a policy perspective, those efforts being disaggregated was not causing the traction that we were looking for. So the approach now has been, let's have a financial sector skills council that has the composition of both the industry actors and government to see that we identify, first take stock. We are currently doing a financial sector skills survey that is looking to map what the existing skills are and where the gaps are, so that now we can make a concerted effort towards addressing them. So all this is work in progress, but when I look in terms of the future, I believe that now that there is both public and private actors on the table to address the issue of skills, we are going to see traction. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Just one last question, and then we move for the round of closing remarks. I'm told we need to go to another session. Just one, the gentleman in the front.
Hello, my name's Trevor Louis. I'm an investor from the UK. As it's the last question, it's going to be a twofold question, if you don't mind. So,
go ahead, yeah.
So, anybody on the panel, what would you say is the biggest financial challenge that Rwanda, or you could say risk that Rwanda is facing in the next year or 1 to 5 years? And on a positive note, if this forum is going to be run the same time next year, what would be one metric or one point that you would want to report on, which is a positive? Does that make sense there? And hello, I remember meeting you in the UK. Yes. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Right. So let's start let's respond as we take our final thoughts on that. I think we're going to start with Charlotte, and then we come as we go. You can feel free to respond to the questions. Let's start with Charlotte first. Charlotte.
I think I'll keep my focus on what positive outcome I would like to see this time next year. First of all, it's good to see you again. I remember you. We had a good discussion. I think for the sector, ideally is to, build awareness about global business services and the impact or the potential impact it has on job creation in Rwanda. But more importantly, to secure at least 1 or 2 investors who are keen to invest in the sector, tap into our talent pool, engage with our partners to see what relationships we can build. And really as a tangible sort of end would be to lock in 1 or 2 investors. That would be an ideal outcome.
Thank you.
Yeah?
Nick, your closing remarks? And answer, yes.
First respond to the question that has been asked. What are the challenges? One, it's perceived risk. And I say perceived because at times it's not real risk. It's perceptual. Is Rwanda safe? Is Rwanda under rule of law? Is Nairobi safe? The reality on the ground when you come to Rwanda and other African countries, it's actually safe. You can walk around. There is no one who is going to mug you. You can transact. So it's a challenge. One of the ways to address it is for us to continue to lead the narrative like we are, continue to invite people to come to Rwanda and Africa and see, not what they watch on Sky News, on CNN. But that for me in terms of ranking of challenges, that's number 1. Number 2 is now the real risk, which is inflationary. We are facing it in Rwanda, and it's not only Rwanda, it's global. Because of geopolitical tensions, because of how certain economies responded to COVID, we are now beginning to see the effects of that begin to trickle within our economies. The question is, what are we doing about them? What I always take pride on as a Rwandan is that the government of Rwanda walks its talk. When it comes to how do we address risk, is for the government to be able to say, in as much as we don't have sufficient pools of capital, but for the little that we have, if we see a partner who we have mutual interest, we are able to raise capital to de-risk. And there are certain investment vehicles that government has put in place. Key amongst them is the Rwanda Innovation Fund, where government is raising capital, putting into an investment vehicle that is going to invest into private businesses. So those are the two topmost challenges that I see for Rwanda and Africa in general. How should we measure success? Let's turn words into action. Let's see UK investors. Let's look a year from now and say how many investors invested in Rwanda. How many investors partnered with local investors to invest in Rwanda and across the region. I feel for me that's the key metric that we should look at. How many and how much. Very easy to measure, very easy to monitor. That's how we should look at success a year from now. Closing remark, as I mentioned, we are a country that is on the move. We know where we want to go, but we are cognizant that we can't do it alone. So we invite members in the audience to say, come and invest in Rwanda, come and invest through Rwanda. There are opportunities in Rwanda and across the region. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Nick. Thank you. Patience, how do we ensure that this forum does not go into waste, that we take advantage of the opportunities it brings?
Yeah, just like, I'd also like...
Yeah.
Hello? Yeah. I'd like to touch on the risks/challenges. I think the biggest financial, in my view, the challenge that we're currently facing is related to the growing trade imbalance. Rwanda being a majorly importing country, we do not see export growing at the same pace, and so that kind of has puts a strain on foreign currency. And I know that that's not an issue that's specific to Rwanda. It's a systemic issue across the continent because of the over-reliance on the dollar. So foreign currency, I think, is a challenge that each one of us experiences on a daily basis. I would like to be able to measure success in terms of the investments that we're able to attract, but related to export. So export-oriented investments, so that we're able to invest in sectors that are going to help us produce more, not only to satisfy this market, but also to export outside of Rwanda, not just products, but also services, so that we can attract foreign currency into the country. Parting remarks for me would be that as BPR, we're here to serve not only the country, but also the people that come to us, individuals, small businesses, corporates. We are a highly agile organization and are really keen to strike deals. So if you need a banking partner to talk to, we're here and ready to serve you.
Thank you, Patience. Taka, you have the last word.
I'll use this one again. I mean, the true measure of success for us coming back next year will have been to have made meaningful investment or investments into Rwanda. My fellow panelists have talked about looking for investors. We're one. You mentioned investors with Mula. We have it. We are looking for opportunities to invest in Rwanda, and we want to do it along our key impact themes, looking for women-owned businesses, green investments, targeting our money to SMEs. But we are absolutely comfortable with sort of the macro risks here and the political and risks in Rwanda. So we have appetite, and I hope that the rest of this conference leads to some successful investments that we can talk about next year.
Thanks. I think it speaks to why I sat him next to me. So I want to say thank you. It is the time we had for this conversation. It cannot end here. It was not meant to end here. This was just going to be a conversation starter, just to help us now open up room for us to even talk directly to each other. So I hope we've done that successfully. If we did not meet your expectations, apologies. I hope we can do better next year. But thank you so much for making time. We'll see you next time. As always, my name is Eugene Andangwe. Thank you to our panelists as well. Thank you. Thank you very much. God bless you. Yeah. Anyone with that badge? Look for anyone with a badge. Ask them the questions you need. CEO is ready for the questions. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I'll look for you. So.
Today, the one with the cable here, I've been looking for you. And they put the water problem, the electricity, the Ugandans are passing, our legs are disorganized. Even now, Uganda exactly.
as critical nations' economic and national security. So, now it's the screen. So we don't have enough critical material here. So what are critical material as known today? First of all, we have what is called rare earth material. They are mainly used to produce magnet in EVs and or in wind turbines generator. We have also those materials used in battery for EVs or stationary storage, such as cobalt and lithium. Other critical material are part of platinum group metals. They are mainly used in hydrogen electrolyzer to achieve net zero carbon emission. We have also major material like aluminum, copper, nickel, zircon, that are important in electrification. Lastly, electrical steel is near critical due to its use in transformers for the grid and electric motors in EVs. Steel was not considered till very soon as a critical material, but because of its use recently and the demand, now is considered as critical. So global perspective on critical material. So a mineral commodity's importance and the nature of its supply chain can change with time, such as a mineral commodity that may have been considered critical 20 years ago and may not be critical today, or one considered critical now and may not be so in the future. And a clear example, today we are talking a lot about lithium, but the price of lithium was multiplied by 800% between 2020 and 2022. So meaning before 2020, this material was not considered as critical as today. And tomorrow, if there is any new discovery with better properties compared to lithium, the lithium will lose its qualification as a critical material. So critical minerals are mostly used in energy transition and digital technology. The United Kingdom's critical minerals strategy aims, where possible and proportionate, to mitigate risks and to improve resilience of critical mineral supply chain, increasing confidence in UK's net zero transition, key manufacturing sectors, and national security. Coming to Rwanda, among the critical minerals in Rwanda, we have lithium, niobium, tantalum, tin, and tungsten. Rare earth elements were mined historically, but exploration is yet to confirm the country's potential. Across the mineral value chain, there are potential opportunities for mineral exploration and extraction for traditional minerals like tritium, tin, tantal, tungsten, gold, lithium-bearing minerals, gemstone, and industrial material. For people who are not familiar with the geology of Rwanda, those are different areas on the country map where you find those minerals. So you realize that the whole territory of the country, you can find different kinds of minerals. On the geological context of Rwanda, the only thing I wanted to show here is the Kimberland belt. This green color you have here, this is the mineralogy in the region. It comes from Angola, it continued to DRC, then Burundi and Rwanda. And this geology justified the reason why you find similar kind of minerals in those countries. The mineralization of Rwanda. So in Rwanda we find world-class tritium, tantal, tungsten, and tin. And then we have a second category of minerals where we have precious metals, mainly gold, and then gemstone. Different kind of gemstones found in Rwanda. You have amethyst, you have amblygonite, you have sapphire, and many other kind of colored stones. The last category, it's battery metals and rare earth element, where you have lithium and nickel as battery metals, and then rare earth element. On the current exploration going on, in 2017, we did what is called airborne survey, and we were able to identify 52 potential targeted areas that have a high likelihood of mineral deposit. Among those 52, we have 37 where you find existing mineral license. When you look on this map, existing mineral license are those ones in black color. And the potential targeted areas are the ones surrounded by a red color. So as I showed on the previous map, you can see that you find mine in the whole territory of the country. Among the 52 also, 10 PTAs are not occupied by any license. 5 are located inside protected national parks. Some licensed companies are located out of the PTAs, but in additional potential mining zone, commonly called brownfield. Those is like this one, for example. You see it's not located in any potential targeted area, or this, or this. They are scattered everywhere. Ongoing initiative on exploration, investing in intensive and cutting-edge exploration techniques within recently identified PTAs, the 52, offer the chance to precisely delineate and quantify mineral resources. The government of Rwanda is currently undertaking 3 years exploration campaign focusing on lithium, thorities, and gold. But I know also it's not only the government. Some companies, as we will hear today on the panel, they embarked also on detailed exploration on their own licenses. International exploration companies are currently engaging with the government for partnership in exploration of potential mineral blocks for lithium and associated minerals. I think yesterday you saw in the newspaper, we have the presence of Rio Tinto here. Rio Tinto concluded an MOU with the government of Rwanda for exploration of lithium recently. And there are many other companies also under discussion with the government for the same exercise. On opportunities on critical mineral in Rwanda, so as I saw, we are still at the level of exploration. We have untapped mineral potential. Prospects for strategic resources is also still open. We have a supportive and legal regulatory framework in the country, allowing investors to come and be assured that their investment is secured. Sustained economic growth, as we will see on the next slide. The volume of export in value for minerals kept increasing from 2020. Compliance with OECD standards, but not only OECD, but also different schemes we have in the country to make sure that 100% mineral out of Rwanda are traceable from the mine to the market. Mineral exploration prospects, as I said, is also going on, but I recall here that the government do exploration up to the level of de-risking, up to the level of encouraging private companies to come. Then the detailed exploration is done by companies. In mineral value addition, we still have also opportunity. In Rwanda, we have a tin smelter, a refinery of gold, and another one for tantalum and niobium. But we are still open for a refinery for tungsten and a refinery for lithium. There is opportunity also for JV. In Rwanda, all the companies you saw in the previous, the concession you saw in the previous slide, most of them are artisanal miners ready to do partnership with international companies. The reason for this point 3 on JV opportunities. There is another opportunity for mining equipment and services. As I said, we are transitioning from artisanal mining to mechanized mining, and you understand that this is not possible without skills, but also mainly without proper equipment. Last opportunity is oil and gas. The government of Rwanda invested in 2D seismic survey on oil and gas exploration in 2021 around Lake Kivu. In the results, we were able to identify 13 oil pockets assumed to have the presence of lithological type trap. So there is the opportunity to do, as next step, 3D seismic survey before going to commercialization. As I said previously, you can see that here at the bottom, so in 2020, the volume of export was 733 million US dollar. 2021, we had a slight decrease up to 516. 2020, we were at 772. And last year, the year we closed in December, we were able to hit 1 billion US dollar export for the first time in the history of Rwanda. So Rwanda mineral exports are growing exponentially due to discovery of new minerals, increased production capacity, global price increase, but there is a point we didn't mention here, it's value addition. The fact that we have factories in Rwanda today, like gold refinery, we are not only refining gold from Rwanda, the market is open, so we are buying from the whole Africa, depending on where gold is coming, and it is processed in Rwanda. That's the reason why you can see that the biggest part of the value for export is gold in terms of value, but when you go into volume, it's treaties driving the volume, the highest volume of export. For the implementation, especially on the traceability, we have been implementing ITSKI scheme since 2010, but it's not the only scheme we are implementing to make sure that the traceability of mineral from this country is assured. We are implementing, recently we started implementing blockchain technologies, which I think are the future compared to the manual tagging we have been doing, and it's mainly better accepted by off-takers. I will end on this slide as our introduction, where we have challenges, but in most of the time challenges are transformed into intervention or opportunities. The first one is extensive mineral exploration to be done to make sure that we know exactly what we have underground, and as an intervention, we have to conduct intensive mineral exploration. Secondly, the use of rudimentary tools for mineral extraction and processing, because we are still mainly driven by artisanal mining. So this is a challenge, and the solution would be setting a local supply of modern machines. And this is an opportunity for companies involved in machinery. Point 3, raw mineral recovery, between 35 and 40% for 3Ts and about 25% for gold. What it means here, the ore you are getting underground, when we start washing and processing, our miners are only collecting 35% of 3Ts and on gold 25, means the rest goes in the water and it is lost in the rivers. They are doing this because they collect only what they can see by eye. And you know that, like gold, for example, the biggest pieces are microscopic, and you see them after aggregating. So the solution here would be improved use of modern technology in mineral processing, which is also an opportunity for companies involved in machinery. Lastly, lack of professional services in metallurgy for mineral testing. This is also a gap, but we are seeing it as an opportunity for companies interested to set up a professional metallurgy facility. I thank you for your kind attention.
Thank you very much, Dr. Ivan. That was a wonderful presentation, setting the stage for the panel discussion. Everything that Dr. Ivan has presented, the different minerals that he has made reference to, the 3Ts, we already have people in the room that are trading in those rooms. I would love to invite forward our panelists who will help us dissect this information. A conversation on minerals can be a bit heavy. So Peter and Tim, I hope you're going to tone down the technical language a little bit so that some of us that are just going to start investing will understand. I would love to invite Dr. Ivan back. Dr. Ivan is the Deputy CEO, Rwanda Mines, Petroleum and Gas Board. Please join us in welcoming him on stage. Thank you, Dr. Ivan. Peter Geleta, the CEO of Trinity Metals. Thank you. Trevor of Luna Smelter. Good to see you, Trevor. I have Ray Power, the CEO, Power Resources International. And last but not least, I've got Kosti Benham, the CEO and founder, Critical Minerals Association. I gave away my seat because I've been seated for a while, so I chose to do this while standing. And I might have to ask for the microphones that I'm able to enjoy the room. It is a pleasure to have you all on stage. Thank you so much for making time to be part of this conversation on minerals, critical minerals. We've got a lot of questions among the audience, and I hope that you will keep those up to the end. A quick one for you. I think we should start, since you already had from Ray Power, his experience. I need Peter Geleta to share just a little bit about investing in Rwanda. Peter, we're going to start with you. Investing in Rwanda. That's a question that I had saved for Ray Power, which I will still get to. But if you can just share with us a little bit of your experience investing in the mining industry in Rwanda.
Okay,
it's
I'll
on.
represent.
Sorry, no, good. Now it's
good. I represent Trinity Metals. Trinity Metals was formed in May 2022, so only 20 months ago. And I'll tell you the story. When I arrived at my first visit to Rwanda and first visit to the operations, I was in a bit of state of shock after a while, because what I saw was assets that had been seriously neglected for many, many years with a lack of investment. And these operations were mostly artisanal kind of mining operations. And but what I also saw very quickly is the major potential of unexplored territory. And I also what really surprised me, I guess, in that environment was the people and how positive our people were. They had tremendous talent. And I actually walked away feeling quite sorry for them, because they had been operating there and they were still so positive with so little investment over the years. Fortunately, when Trinity was formed, part of the agreement with the government was that there would be a specific investment made. And over the last 2 years, we've invested over $30 million into these operations. And the impact that we've seen has been tremendous. It is quite unbelievable. Our production on each of these mines has quadrupled. We've gone from a situation where we were making a loss to generating positive cash now. And we have probably the best talent in the mining industry working for us. And we are going places. We've now secured further investment, because once you start doing well, you can attract further investment. And we're attracting further investment for further growth. But I think the positive environment from an investment point of view has been fantastic. Other than the fact that we've got great people, hardworking people. I've worked across 21 countries, many in Africa, and I've never met more dedicated and hardworking people than I've met in Rwanda. And I also haven't come across such a good investment climate and a supportive government and RMB. So I think we're very excited about the future, because we can see all this opportunity. The slide that Dr. Ivan put up, you can see all the exploration licenses and the concessions that have, similarly to what happened to the Trinity assets in the past, have been underinvested in. So we're at the start of a journey, but we think that there's huge opportunity. and we're in it for the long run. Thank you.
Wonderful. You're in it for the long run. That's good. Ray, what's your story? If you can tell us why, and I know you touched a little bit on it earlier, but if you can share with us why you chose Rwanda.
I'll try not to repeat everything I said this morning. You weren't there, I guess, kind of unlucky. Look, our experience, we heard this morning on the macro experience. I think Peter just mentioned the government is incredibly responsive on the needs of the mining industry, which we like. You know, there's no corruption. And I think for other friends in the mining industry, you probably don't believe me, but it's true. You know, there's not many African states where you don't get racketeered and you don't get knocked on the door to take a piece of the action in whatever form that might take. So we're very pleased we can just get on with business, because mining is kind of hard enough to begin with. Again, I mentioned this morning, the deposits in this country are by definition very small, and I didn't want to talk about the actual rock types this morning, but pegmatites are the main rock here, and we heard that they host lithium, tin, tantalum, and they're a whole suite, and they're a mixed bag. So for the capital markets in the West, they present a problem because they're not they don't fit in a bucket. And we're very fortunate because we focus on the niche technology, and we've developed our own technologies for fine-grained mineral processing. We're able to get exceptional recovery rates and make uneconomic deposits economic when we combine it with all the other value addition we're doing on the refining side. So we come at it from a fairly non-standard industry approach. If we were to come in and do a long-term exploration and build a world-class asset, I think we'd have to, you know, I think it would take a much longer period and reevaluate where we are. But for what we do in this country, it's absolutely perfect.
That's awesome. Thank you so much for that. Dr. Abraham, I would love to come to you a question on RMB's approach to health and safety in the mining sector. How's the government looking to include miners? And you know, many of them are female. It's a risky industry. So what is the government doing, and of course through RMB, to ensure health and safety measures are observed?
Thank you so much. The way RMB is structured, we have 3 different departments or areas. We have a department in charge of inspection, which is addressing the issues and the question you asked. And then we have a department in charge of exploration, and those are the one doing prospection and the results we were presenting. And then we have a new department which focuses on geohazard, seismic activities, when you have earthquakes, when you have any seismic activities as a consequence of nature. So in the inspection department, we have what we call SOPs, standard operation procedures, set up. We have rules and regulation, and we have technical teams up to district level in charge of doing continuous inspection and making sure that the companies are following regulation. Companies are classified progressively with different colors, from green to red. And so when you find yourself in red, you know you are approaching the exit. And sometimes you don't need to be summoned, you know you are approaching to go. Companies under green, they are a good performer, and in yellow, most of the time you get a letter informing you on what you have to fix, and we give you either 30 days or 90 days depending on the weight of what you have to comply on. So that's how we do, and on the footprint, as we are existing up to district level, it helps a lot to follow up the companies. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Time to bring in the female voice in this conversation. Kirsty Benham, who's the CEO and founder of Critical Minerals Association. Kirsty, talk to us about the global trends, the current global trends in the mining sector, and how we can position ourselves to take advantage of those trends.
Thank you. So for those of you who aren't familiar with the Critical Minerals Association UK, we're based in the UK. We represent 40 companies across critical mineral supply chains. And essentially our mission is to bring together organizations across the supply chain to develop responsible alternative critical mineral supply chains. And coming back to some of those global trends, those of you who are familiar with the industry, I'm sure will be familiar with what I'm going to raise. But I think a few points that I wanted to flag was, we know that we need more and more of these materials for the green energy transition, but at the same time, we're seeing that it's increasingly difficult for companies in the exploration space to access finance, so that short-term vision versus the long-term strategic view. We're also seeing that countries around the world in terms of are coming together and recognizing the vulnerability of supply chains. So you have the Mineral Security Partnership, which is investing more and more money into this space with the US's Inflation Reduction Act, Germany, Canada, other players investing quite a lot in this space. But I wanted to flag the importance of ESG in that aspect. So the fact that the organizations that, or the companies that are being invested in by the MSP are all supposed to move towards having responsible supply chains. So the fact that it'll always be more important to have those ESG credentials, which is an area that I think Rwanda is working hard on doing and can continue to be a leader in the space. And then I finally wanted to flag the importance of the midstream. So I think more and more countries around the world are recognizing the importance of developing the midstream. We heard about this earlier in terms of what the opportunities are for Rwanda, but there are other countries around the world that are also looking into this. So how can we work together and develop some of those strategic opportunities and see where we can invest strategically so we can develop those in a comprehensive way. So there's a few areas that I thought I'd touch upon.
Thank you, Kirsten. And now that you're in the mood of flagging things, can you talk about good governance? Good governance and traceability, how significant are those?
So in terms of considering that we need more and more responsible supply chains, very significant. And I think one initiative that I wanted to flag was the EITI, which was mentioned earlier, the Extractive Industries Transparency Initiative, which I think is a great platform to bring together stakeholders from government, industry, civil society. And I think that's an area that Rwanda could potentially join and be a part of. And I went to the EITI conference last year, and it was great to see so many African leaders represented. There were prime ministers, so being part of initiatives like that, I think, would be a great opportunity to flag the importance of good governance and traceability.
Okay, thank you. Trevor? We've listened to everyone, would love to come to you. Trevor is from Luna Smelter. Trevor, I would love to hear from you. What you feel is the potential for positive partnerships between the private sector and the public sector in the space that you're active in. And as you respond to that, if you can offer a piece of advice to any potential investors, if I give you the opportunity to advise them, what would that be?
Yeah, thank you. So we operate in the so-called midstream space. I'm downstream in the value chain from Trinity Metals. Luna Smelter smelts and refines tin to the LME grade specification, but there is greater opportunity for further beneficiation. We're producing a 99.95% tin, so you're going up that value curve, and we saw from the slideshow from Dr. Ivan that the value add is a very significant aspect of the mining industry within Rwanda, which is very unique for African countries. I've operated in several sub-Saharan African countries, and they don't necessarily have the same level of value add in there. And we haven't yet had Power Resources bring their tantalum refinery into operations. That will further add to the downstream beneficiation. So there's an opportunity between public and private enterprises is to develop into that next level of beneficiation. And that level of beneficiation can be anything, and I won't speak for Power Resources and where they plan to go to, but we would obviously like to roll out to a higher level of value add within this country. We see an enormous skill set, as my colleagues at Trinity Metals do, so we see an enormously skilled workforce out here, very well educated in Rwanda, and we would like to go into the downstream, the more specialized tin products, which may be into specialty metals that are associated with tin. But to do that, of course, requires further investment into the country, and it requires a policy that goes beyond the existing policies. So I would urge the public, call it policymakers, is to look just beyond going to a 99.95%. Let's go to products, things that people do. Why can't we produce capacitors in this country? Why can't we produce solar ribbon for solar installations in Africa? Why can't we? Why can't we? There's a lot of opportunity in here, but as always, it requires financing, and for financing to come in, investors need to be assured of the policies regarding that industry. And in that regard, we've been very grateful and aware of the strides that Rwanda's made in terms of their policies for beneficiation. And I think the next step is to take that just one step further from midstream into some final product. And the question you asked me, what would my advice be to investors?
Yes.
Bring your money.
Then bring the money. I love that. Bring the money, that's all. Thank you. We'll be coming to you shortly. If you have a question or a comment, please get ready with that. We'll ask our panelists questions. They're here to answer them. Before we do that, Dr. Ivan, I would love to know how the government collaborates with private sector to create an ecosystem that is collaborative and one that fosters innovation, research, development, adoption of technology, and such.
Thank you so much. First of all, the collaboration is key because they are the one giving me the results at the end of the year. As you saw in my presentation, the key parameter the institution is judged on is the volume of export. And the institution is not the one exporting. So I have the responsibility to care and to treat them as prince to make sure that in the end I get those results. That one. Secondly, we have also to care about the introduction of technology. As I talked on the traceability, we have been tagging manually, but today we started having blockchain technologies coming on. Some companies brought the solution, but today we are working for a national solution which will help now to do the tagging through technology and be able to trace the material from the mine up to the market. The other angle where we work with the private sector is through inspection, as I said, because there are rules and regulation. But there is another area also. A company to enter into the business, they sign an agreement with the institution. That agreement is the one setting the foundation as an agreement between the two parties. So when it is not respected, you end up sometimes on bad experience where your licenses can be cancelled. But we don't arrive on that decision without doing it into steps, as I said, different colors. So we try to accompany them up to a level where we can rescue some companies or push them to do some partnership with stronger companies. Thank you.
That is very good, because you don't want somebody to stay there, invest while they're worrying that one day you might just wake up and knock on their door, tell them pack your things and leave. Yeah. So it's good that you point out, you do it in phases. Yeah, thank you for that, Dr. Ivan. Time for us to cross over to the other side of the room. This business forum is about you, our investors, our potential investors. You want to know about the country, you want to know about the opportunities, you want to know about the risks, you want to... all those questions that you have, time to have you ask them. Please raise your hand, please introduce yourself, and mention the person you're sending the question to. I love it, and I love it when I see the ladies go up first. So we start with the lady in red, there's a lady in a jacket, then we go to the guy. Can I get 4 hands at least to start with? There's a geologist there, my friend Uk-Rwanda. All right, so we'll start with the lady in red. We come to the lady in a jacket. then Iradukunda and the gentleman there. Please.
Okay. Thank you so much. My name is Fadzai. I'm working with Manufacturing Africa, and we've just completed a market study on opportunities for Rwanda to penetrate the lithium-ion battery precursor space. And one of the recommendations that we came up with is collaborating with other countries within the region or wider African countries in order to source the raw materials and bring them here into Rwanda, beneficiate, bring in the processing and to battery-grade material before actually creating the precursors for export. And my question is for Luna Smelting. It's just interesting to hear what you're doing with tin smelting, and I just wanted to know, or to hear from you, are you using tin that is only extracted here in Rwanda, or are you also collaborating with other countries? And if you are collaborating with other countries, how easy or how difficult is it? What are some of the challenges? And because of that, I just want to see how practical our recommendation is on the lithium-ion battery precursor space. Thank you.
So certainly we are able to...
Trevor, if you could just allow us to collect all of them, then you will respond. Yeah. So just take note of that. Keep it for now. Okay. Yes.
Good afternoon. My name is Maureen Mutiso. I work for Faro Foundation. My question goes to Dr. Ivan. My question is, some neighboring countries will claim that we trade in minerals that's not ours. What's your take on that, and what advice would you actually give a potential investor that's looking at venturing into minerals? Thank you.
Thank you for that question. Yeah, Iradukunda, the geologist. Put up your hand, Iradukunda.
Good evening. I go by the names of Iradukunda Hurain. I'm a mine geologist in Trinity Metals, and I'm a proud female geologist in Rwanda.
Yes. Let's appreciate that.
I'd like to address my questions, which are 3, to Dr. Ivan. I would like to know how much is the rate you are confident on this recent exploration that has been done, and how are you confident to that? I mean, which made you to identify those potential? 52 potential areas. How are you confident on that, and what are you recommend the investors to invest in those potential areas? And number 2 is that you've mentioned that one of the opportunities that we have is that you are going to serve mining equipments to the mines, which are being owned by the local investors and international investors. How are you going to do that? And number last to you is that should we introduce a geochemistry exploration method so that we can't lose the aggregates in drainage, in water channels? If you've been mentioning that we are actually losing the minerals there, of course we are losing there, and some of the mines like ours, we are introducing the metallurgical method so that we can recover those minerals that we are losing, but also we are still having a gap on those which are being lost in water channels. Should we introduce geochemistry exploration methods so that we can recover? And number last but not the least question, I would like to address it on the female on the panel. I'm really proud of you. I feel I will be, I feel maybe in the coming year I will be, I will be sitting there.
Yes.
I would like to ask you, how can we register as female in your association? I would love to be a part of that association. How can we register it? Thank you very much.
Great. Yes. Final question.
Good evening. My name is Augustine Rwamshana. I work for Rwanda Mines, Petroleum and Gas Board as the Division Manager for Investment and Strategy. I will address my question to the CEO, Critical Minerals Association. We've had the definition of critical minerals, and you know we have some terminologies in mining business. We have the so-called strategic minerals, the rare earth minerals. So I want to know what's the distinction between the critical minerals and the strategic minerals. And then that question directly takes me to another one. I want also to know if does in an individual country allowed to come up with a list of, let's say, critical minerals or strategic minerals, depending on the context of that country. From the presentation we had from my superior, Dr. Ivan, he mentioned the 3 Ts, which are traditional minerals. And these are minerals that have been mined ever since 1920s, 30s. So indeed, they are very important to the development of our economy. So are they really fitting to be critical as by the name, or they are strategic? Thank you so much.
Oh, those are good questions, Augustine. Thank you so much. We'll start with you, Kirsty, then we go to Trevor, and finally get to Dr. Ivan. Kirsty, go ahead.
Thanks for the question. So I think in terms of the difference between critical and strategic minerals, we've seen the strategic minerals terminology being used in the EU's critical raw materials list, and typically it's used for materials like copper, which countries might not necessarily deem as critical because they're not at risk of supply chain disruptions, but at the same time we know that we're going to need huge quantities of them for the energy transition. So that's one differentiation. And then I think in terms of the lists and how they're sort of structured depending on the country, we see, for example, Australia and Canada have defined their list based on the fact that they're quite heavy mining jurisdictions, so they mine quite a lot of these materials, so therefore the criticality depends on what they have and what they want to promote internally, as opposed to other lists which may be more focused on the downstream sector and what the manufacturing sectors need. So I think if Rwanda is interested in having its own critical minerals list or aligning with those, it could definitely depend on the fact that it has the mining aspect of it as well. And yeah, the 3 Ts are on the critical minerals list, which is good, so that's one aspect. Hopefully that answers your question, but I'm happy to talk more about it afterwards if you like. And then on the point about having more women in the mining sector, I think it's been great being part of it because there's women in mining, there's women mining in the UK, there's a lot of impressive women that I've come across in the sector over the past few years, and I'm really proud because our conference last year had 53% female speakers, and they were all very high-level speakers, so it wasn't that we just picked them because they were female. So I think there's a lot more that can be done in that space, and happy to have a conversation afterwards about how you could get involved in the association. And I think just one point I wanted to pick up on a question that wasn't addressed to me, but about the lithium processing opportunities of engaging with other countries. I think the UK is also a country that could engage with Rwanda in this front, considering there are 4 lithium exploration companies in the UK. And again, I'm happy to share more about that.
Augustine, are you satisfied? Are you satisfied with the response? All right. Any of you, do you want to chip in? Peter? Before we go to Trevor, you want to comment on the question on what are strategic minerals and what are critical minerals, or you're both okay with that? It's fine, all right. Trevor?
Yeah, so in terms of our collaboration with the other countries in Central and Eastern Africa, we operate in the 3T space, which is a curse, and it's turned out to be something of a benefit. The curse of it is that we've had to implement these very strong traceability programs associated with that. And the curse of that comes with my own personal term, which is what I refer to as an Afro tax. So we tin producers, so we get taxed on an international market basis because we produce in Africa. I've got my head around that, and it's something that I'm not happy with. But working together with RMB, we're working to develop these digital tracking and tracing programs, which should get us away from these internationally imposed Afro taxes on us here. So my point to you is that we've been fortunate in the 3T space in that we can collaborate with all the countries around us. So we import from Tanzania, we import from DRC, and we buy locally in the market, because everything comes to you with some kind of a traceability system. So my advice to you would be that if you are going to be moving into a lithium space and to be looking to do some kind of precursor to lithium battery metals, which I think is a brilliant idea here in this country specifically, it would be incredibly important, but one has to be assured that you can track these minerals, where they're coming from, and we can just punt it because we're one of the companies that have developed its own digital tracing program. We offer our customers a passport, so it's a digital metals passport. So whoever buys our tin from us can track, if it's come from Peter's mine, they'll be able to know it was mined on Peter's mine, when it was mined there. So it's not this cumbersome manual tagging system that Dr. Ivan referred to. It's very much cutting edge. So I think if you are going to set something like that up think about design your traceability system, because the consumers of that end product at some stage are going to give you a hard time about it. So design it into your process up front, and there are lots of smart kids out there who can design you these incredibly simple, really simple systems, but get it in up front, and then collaborating with the rest of the Great Lakes regions is really quite simple. It's centrally run and managed by the International Committee of the Great Lakes. They have guidelines for gold, for tin, for tantalum. It's all in there, and rather be a precursor to that. So get ahead of the curve. Do the same thing for lithium. Otherwise, you're going to have the problems that cobalt's got. Nobody wants to touch cobalt because it's tainted in their view as to where it came from and how it was mined. So protect your industry. Get out there. Get in front of the curve, and be proactive. You do that, you'll be in a good position. Thank you.
Thanks. Dr. Ivan, you also had a set of questions.
Thank you so much. So the first question is tricky, and I keep getting it in all the conferences. We trade minerals which are not ours. I will answer this question at two levels. Level one, I showed you the Kimberland geology, the Kimberland belt. It comes from Angola, DRC, Burundi, and then Rwanda. That's the geology, and it is a proven belt which is there. The reason why in Rwanda we have been struggling 30 years ago to get minerals, and all those countries I talked about, we are the only country called the country of 1,000 hills. So it means in Rwanda you have to dig deep to get access to concentrated minerals. And today we are happy because some companies we have here, like Trinity Metals, they started now drilling up to 300 meters, and they brought a new machine. Now they are going to 500, 600 meters. This is an area which have never been explored before. In some point of Rwanda, compared to DRC, you have 200 or 300 difference in altitude. So this can be one of the explanation, and our mining is mainly dominated by artisanal miners using rudimentary tools. So that's the reason why we have been mining at surface, but even with the little means we are able to export minerals. That's one. Secondly, you saw the picture I showed on the exploration going on. When we show those potential targeted areas, we are not inventing. Those are results we got using sensors, and those sensors and technologies are used in other countries also to trace minerals. That's the first level. And the last level, where I want to explain about the issue of minerals which are not ours, I want also to challenge you. European countries are trading minerals and they have no mine. They have zero mine on their territory. Why would they be able to trade and not us? And then on the trading, sometimes people don't understand how trading is going on. If you say that we are not trading our own minerals, in me it's as if Rwandans leave Rwanda, go to Burundi, DRC, mine there and take the minerals and bring those minerals in Rwanda. That's not how the trading is done. We have in this market supplier of raw material for our smelter and refinery. We have people coming from far in West Africa. We have supplier from Ethiopia. Why an Ethiopian would supply a mineral refinery in Rwanda and you don't want a Burundian or a Congolese or a Tanzanian to bring here? That's the question I'm addressing to you. And then the other complicated technicalities, as long as the traceability is kept on and is assured, why would you force a Congolese or a Burundian to export to India or Asia, wait 3 months to get paid because of transport, while for him it was easier to cross in Rwanda, sell his material, in 24 hours get paid, go back, instead of waiting for 3 months to get paid, he will be coming every week and he make money on rotation. So I think sometimes Africans, we are somehow crazy. We talk about common market, we talk about removing barriers. Then when we go in the practice, we start saying, oh, you are not trading yours or mine or what. In this trading going on, when a foreigner comes in Rwanda, the person who make more money is that trader bringing material. The refiner or the smelter in Rwanda will make a margin, a small margin, after adding value. But the biggest value in terms of cash goes to the person who supplied the raw material. So I think this is a non-issue, and I will keep saying it to make sure that people understand. There is no reason why Swiss and Belgium can trade Belgium gold and Swiss gold, and Rwanda cannot process and sell Rwandan gold, even if it was sourced, raw material was sourced elsewhere. Coming to the three questions quickly, how much confident am I on exploration? I think I answered it. We used airborne survey, so it's a plane and you put sensor, and it is those sensors which help you to map, to show you anomalies where you can get minerals. But we don't stop there. After getting those anomalies, we call them anomalies in geology, we do what we call geophysics and geochemistry. Geophysics, we send people now on the ground. They do pitting and trenching, 5 meters, 20 meters. We take samples. Then you do geochemistry in the lab, where you do the measurements and you arrive with concrete results showing you the composition in your sample. After that, then you enter into proper exploration, and this is what I was explaining. 3 years drilling. Now you make a decision to go to 100, 200, up to 600 meters where now Trinity Metals is going. But you don't drill blindly. You drill after doing the whole process. Airborne survey, geophysics, geochemistry. Then when you get precise information, you can now drill to know what is now inside deep. So all this process is being done, and that's what gives us confidence that we have minerals. Second point, equipment to local miners. At the moment, we are discussing with the financing institution in Rwanda to raise a fund. That fund will allow to buy most equipment used in mining. Companies and cooperatives will get those equipment on a lease basis, and they will be able to pay progressively because we will have secured a fund. And the last one on the mineral we are using and the geochemistry and everything, the machinery we are bringing will play a huge role in the separation and making sure that we are not losing the minerals after mining. Thank you.
That's good. Thank you, Dr. Ivan. We will be coming to the panelists for closing remarks, and they will I will point out a few issues that I would love them to touch on as they close. But if there's one burning question, I could give room for that one burning question. Wonderful. Thank you. Just one, then we can close.
Thank you. Thank you very much. My name is Justin from Trinity Metals. I think there are a lot of opportunities as well in the education sector on mining and geology. One thing you will see is there is the University of Rwanda and there are mining companies, but at some point you hire geologists, for example, and you realize that there are some gaps that they have, for example, on digital solutions using softwares. So as these giant companies like Rio Tinto and the elephant that's growing up, Trinity Metals, one strategic opportunity is to invest into raising the skill, the local skill, because otherwise you don't care for the people, then you don't get the money. People give you money. It's not money that give you people. So yeah, I think that was a suggestion or a comment.
Thank you, Justin. Skills development, that's key. Thank you very much. We will be closing. Ray, I'll start with you. As you give your closing remarks, I'd love you to talk about and reiterate, you might have mentioned it, but would love you to reiterate the opportunities that the country offers to potential British investors that are looking to engage with us and invest in the industry.
Yeah, I'll sort of wrap it up. Same question kind of correlates to my closing remarks anyway. I think this is the UK Business Forum after all, and we need to look at how this fits with British interests, bottom line. And I think Rwanda, I mentioned this morning, it has the ability to solve part of the critical minerals and strategic metals equation for the UK. I don't think it can be solo, and I think it's a journey where manufacturing, we need a broader industry base, and I think we have to sort of just raise our eyes on the horizon a little bit to make sure that we get complementary industries around us. So for example, at the moment, we can produce very high purity tantalum, niobium. We even made some lithium last year, but from non-traditional type of minerals, so that we can produce the fertilizers as well. You can see them on our stand over here. But at the moment, we don't really have a company in the UK who can buy those products. You know, the first thing that we really got was a phone call from a large German automotive company trying to get on an airplane and get down here and sign off takes for everything we have. We have a lot of pressure to sell east, we have plenty of pressure to sell west, but as UK fits in this particular picture right here, there is only one company in Britain at the moment that could buy some niobium, and thankfully it's for a new generation lithium niobium battery, and the niobium is starting to replace cobalt. So that's quite a big opportunity. But again, niobium is dominated by Brazil, a whole other story. But the point being, UK can take away from this. I know, John Humphrey, you're here, so we can see where this goes on the next stage. I know, Kirsty, you can take this back as your voice in the Critical Minerals Association. There needs to be a retooling or a diversification of partnerships. I know there are some countries where we look at trilateral relationships and partnerships that can solve this equation, that have part of the strategic alignment with us. It's not America, it's not part of the Five Eyes kind of group, but we need to look beyond our borders strategically and see where Rwanda fits upstream to high purity, solve the midstream problem, and then we have the advanced manufacturing capabilities in the UK, and bit by bit try and bring that more and more here.
Thank you for that. And indeed, Humphrey, Kirsty, take that message back. Trevor, while you've been around and doing business in Rwanda, what is the greatest lesson that you have learned as you give your closing remarks, if you can point that out?
I think the lesson that we've learned in Rwanda is a difficult one to answer with a straight face, but it's things, things happen here according to like the law that happens here. So that's a lesson that we've learned operating here. It's not a country you can come to and act footloose and fancy free and flout the laws of the land. So it's important that when you are coming here and you're considering to come and invest here, is that you understand that the rules actually do apply here, which is, to say this in a public forum might seem strange, but it's a real thing. So be here, be respectful of the laws, because they do get applied, and abide by them. They're there and it works. So I would say, do your due diligence, read the law, because what's written in the law does actually happen, which is quite strange for this part of the world.
Thank you so much. For as long as you respect the law, you are safe. Thank you for that. Peter, as you give your closing remarks, what measures are in place to ensure responsible mining?
Well, if we look at Trinity, we're looking to list on one of the international stock exchanges. We're also looking to attract a lot of international investors. No international investor is going to invest in a mining company if you haven't got your ESG sorted out to international standard. So we're investing a lot of time on implementing proper environmental management systems, safety management systems to ISO standards, world class. If we look at the results, 80% of our workforce used to be artisanal miners, and we have converted them, we've upskilled them, and they work now for us as subcontractors. At the end of 2023, our lost time injury frequency rate was 0.5, which is in line with world-class mines anywhere in the world. And that just shows you what is possible, and with the people that we've got in this country. So, never ever compromise on ESG. That's what we put first. And you have a safe working environment, the production comes naturally.
Thank you very much. Kasti, as you give your closing remarks, talk to Rwanda. Imagine Rwanda is a person looking at you and going by the trends that you mentioned earlier. How do we position ourselves? How do we get ahead of the game?
Thanks. And I think one of the points I raised earlier is that ESG element and the importance of positioning Rwanda as a leader in ESG, continuing to do the work that it's doing, but it could be an ESG leader in Africa, so that when you've got mineral security partnership countries that are coming, they're looking for projects that are responsibly sourced, they look to Rwanda and see that as a key opportunity. And also just promoting the work that you do, and the perceptions of Rwanda, and the impressive business environment that you have on the international stage. So we had an event last year where the Vice Minister for Saudi Arabia came and asked to speak, and they're going out and they're coming to London and asking to promote themselves. So the more that Rwanda can do on that, the better. And I think this forum has been a great opportunity for me as well to learn about the country. So huge thanks to Rob and the team for putting it together.
Thank you for that. Dr. Ivan, as you conclude, I'm looking for success stories indeed. We have them seated here with you, Trinity, Luna, and Ray Power's Power Resources International. Of course, those are success stories. But if you have one that you want to highlight, one that should serve as a model for future collaborations for our friends seated here, if you can highlight that one as I give you closing remarks, please.
Thank you. On the full supply chain in mining, from mining, trading, value addition, and the export of the finished products, as we saw, I encourage new investors to come in mining sector, because we are doing exploration. We have basic information, exploration data, for any company looking for getting a concession to mine. So minerals exist in Rwanda. This is not a story. Then on trading and value addition, from the question I got, I would end up on an anecdote. Cacao is produced in Ivory Coast. It is sent to Switzerland for producing chocolate. When chocolate comes back in Africa, it's Swiss-made chocolate. Why not exporting made in Rwanda tantalum, made in Rwanda gold, by sourcing in the region, as long as we are respecting traceability mechanisms? Thank you.
Enough said. Let us appreciate the panelists, please. Thank you very much, Dr. Ivan, Peter, Trevor, Ray Power, and Kasti. And appreciate yourselves for being a wonderful audience. Thank you very much. The conversation has started here, but I want us to take it out of the room. Make sure you engage with each other for the rest of the days that we're still here. Register for the site visits. Some of the mining activity you'll get to see firsthand. So go to the AI or events app and register for the site visits. Have a look at the program in order not to miss out on any conversations that are down in your lane. My name is Jackie Lumbasi, and it has been a pleasure to run this conversation. Please continue to use UKRW Business Forum hashtag to make sure that the people that stayed at home can keep up with what is happening in Kigali. Enjoy the rest of the evening. Thank you. I have been informed, for those who have the invitation for the coffee,